قال المصنف رحمه الله والسجود والطمأنينة فيه. Prostration and having tranquility therein. الشرح, the explanation. السجود ركن في الصلاة بالكتاب والسنة. Prostration is an integral of the prayer according to the book and the prophetic way. قال الله تعالى, said God Almighty, irka'u wasjudu, bow and prostrate. That's Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 77. وَأَمَّا الطُّمَأْنِينَةُ. Now concerning the tranquility and the bowing in the prostration position, فَلِقَوْلِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ لِلْمُسِيءِ الصَّلَاةَ. That's proven by what the Prophet said to the man who invalidated his prayer. Alayhi salatu wassalam. ثُمَّ اسْجُدْ حَتَّى تَطْمَئِنَّ سَاجِدًا. Then prostrate until you are tranquil prostrating. ثم أقل السجود أن يضع على الأرض من الجبهة ما يقع عليه الإثم. Furthermore, the minimum prostration is to put the forehead on the ground in such a way that what you are doing is called prostration. What we call it, what Muslims call sujud. Sujud. That what you are doing is called sujud. I talked to you about that word prostration before in English. So that's disputable if that's really, really the best word. Some people said the more accurate word, if you want any translation other than the Arabic word sujud, they said kowtow. Kowtow. They said prostration means to lay face down. That's true. They said what Muslims, what we do, Muslims, these are Muslims who said this. They said what we do, that's, if you want to translate it to another language, that's kowtow. But I'm just going to say prostration. So the minimum of sujud is to put the forehead on the ground in such a way that what you are doing is validly named sujud. ولا بد من تحامل بحيث ينال موضع سجوده ثقل رأسه. And it is a condition to let the heaviness of the head be applied to the prostrating spot. Yani, to let the pressure from the head's heaviness, let there be some pressure, to let there be some pressure from the weight, from the heaviness of the head itself when placing it down onto the prostrating spot. ولا يكفي إمساس رأسه موضع سجوده. And it's not valid to just make your head touch the prostration or touch the ground. Just to go so lightly until your head touched the ground and that's it. That's not enough. You have to let the heaviness of the head come upon the ground. Some heaviness. You have to let some of the heaviness of your head settle on the ground. بل يتحامل بحيث لو كان تحته قطن مثلا. Rather, one releases the pressure, releases the weight of his head, such that had there been under his head cotton, for example, lankabasa, then that cotton would be flattened or pressed, let's say press. Then that cotton would be pressed. وظهر أثره على يد لو فرضت تحته. So let's say a person had some cotton on the back of his hand, and then he put his own head on the back of his hand where that cotton is. So if he puts enough heaviness that it presses the cotton and leaves a mark on his hand, that's sufficient. I'm not really sure how to spell kowtow, to be honest with you. Maybe it's Kawtaw. I don't know. And also, I think it's Chinese, but maybe it's Japanese. I think it's Chinese, though. So that's how you have to put your forehead down on the ground. فلو سجد على جبينه أو أنفه أو عمامته لم يكف. So had someone prostrated on his temple, so that's the side of his head, or he only prostrated on his nose, or he prostrated on his turban. And so if that's a Muslim woman, she prostrated on her khimar, whatever's on her head. What we're saying is the bare forehead has to, some part of the bare forehead has to touch the praying surface. ويجب وضع يديه وركبتيه وقدميه مع جبهته. And it's obligatory to also put the two hands, some of the two inner hands, and some of the two knees, and some of the inner pads of the toes of both feet. Yani, not all the toes, something that's from the pad of the toes. So even if it's just the big toe of each foot, the pad though, the inside part. Not the outside, not the top of the foot where your nails are, the bottom, the pad, the part you walk on. وَيَجِبُ وَضْعُ يَدَيْهِ. So it's obligatory to put the two hands and the two knees and the 2 feet, as I described for you, with the forehead. وَالِاعْتِبَارُ فِي الْيَدَيْنِ بِبَاطِنِ الْكَفِّ. For the hands, the consideration is given to, yani, the target part is the inner palm. وَفِي الرِّجْلَيْنِ بِبُطُونِ الْأَصَابِعِ. And the target part of the 2 feet is the pads of the toes. وَيَكْفِي وَضْعُ جُزْءٍ مِّن كُلِّ هَذِهِ الْأَعْضَاءِ. And for all of these body parts that are landing for prostration, as long as some of it is on the surface, that's enough. Not, it doesn't have to be the whole thing, the whole hand, the whole knee, all the pads of your toes. That's not a condition. ولا يكفي ظهر الكف وظهر الأصابع. And so if a person were praying, he was prostrating, and he put the back of his hands for prostration, that's not valid. Or if he put his nails for his toes, yani the tops of his toes for prostration, that's not valid. In Shafi'i school, put the tops of the toes for prostration is not valid in the Shafi'i school. ويشترط في السجود أن ترتفع أسافله على أعاليه في الأصح. And what's most accurate is that it's a condition that the buttocks be higher than the head. وَالثَّانِي تَجُوزُ الْمُسَاوَاةُ. And there's another saying that if the head and the buttocks are level, it's still valid. Most accurate saying is that the head and buttocks cannot be level, buttocks must be higher. There's another saying that if they are level, it's still valid. وَلَوْ ارْتَفَعَتِ الْأَعَالِي عَلَى الْأَسَافِلِ لَمْ يُجْزِي. But if the head is higher than the backside, like he's praying on steps, if the head is higher than the backside, then this is not sufficient. جزم به الرافعي. Imam al-Rafi'i was certain about that. فرع, branch. ولو عجز عن السجود لعلة لعلة. Had a person been unable to prostrate for some illness, due to some illness, أو مع برأسه, then he should signal to prostration by using his head. فَإِنْ عَجَزَ فَبِطَرْفِهِ. And if he's unable to do that, then he will signal to the prostration with his eyelids. وَلَا إِعَادَةَ عَلَيْهِ. And it will not be obligatory on this person who was not able to prostrate fully. It will not be obligatory on this one to make up any prayer. You have any question I can answer for you? You said, in Tuma'nina position, does one stay fully motionless? If one scratches body parts or moves a little in this position, is it okay? Okay, so your question goes then to another case, which is the case of the invalidators. So what's going to invalidate the prayer? 3 consecutive moves, according to a saying, or as many moves as what takes the time of a raka'ah, according to another saying. We'll come to that when we get to the invalidators by God's permission. So that's your limit. Like if you wanted to go by the saying that 3 moves that are alien to the prayer will invalidate your prayer, so then you're going to be mindful not to go past that, or to go past 2 moves, for example. Clear? Question: the stronger saying is movement lasting longer than 1 rak'ah, though. As long as 1 rak'ah. The stronger saying is consecutive moves that are alien to the prayer that last as long as a rak'ah. That's a stronger saying. You're welcome. He said, is the imam praying too fast an excuse to make the intention to break following them in the prayer? I never learned that you need an excuse to make that intention. If a person breaks away from the imam and his intention says, I'm not following the imam anymore, then he's not following the imam anymore. There's no sin here. Yeah. You just intend not to be a follower anymore. Yes, that's it. As long as it's not a prayer that he has to pray in congregation like Jumu'ah, an intention like that will invalidate his prayer in Jumu'ah. Wait, any other question? Yes, go ahead, please. He said, I was told that it was better not to, as it is better to maintain the Jama'ah. Yeah, for sure. Better not to, for sure. He said, can a man touch a paper with the Quran on it that's used for studying without wudu? If most of that paper is Quran, then he cannot. If most of it is not Quran, then he can. For example, what if a person was studying summary of obligatory knowledge, then opened up to the book on dealings, the chapter section of dealings, and then there's an ayah there. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. So that's Quran. Are we going to say he can't touch this because he doesn't have wudu? He can, because most of what's on that page is not Quran. He or she, that's not for a man only. No, the men don't have an exception here. The women on their menses for studying. You're taking me, though, to some other saying. For me, I'm not going to give probably other than what Shafi'i says here. Woman cannot recite the Quran while she's menstruating. Period. Someone says, what if it's for tahseen? No. What if it's for studying? No. Is there another saying? Yes. Can you tell me? No. Why not? Because I don't know it good enough. Go ask another person. If you want a good, clear answer from me, good, clear answer from me, what's correct with no confusion, and you don't have to ask 50 questions. The woman cannot recite Quran while menstruating, period. So that's a useful saying. You don't always have to give a person, like, sometimes you're afraid that, let me give this person another saying so he can feel good about it. You don't have to always. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yes. So you're under instruction there. But I'm talking general here, like if I'm giving a lesson. Khalas. Yes, because too many questions, too much confusion. What if like this and then like that and then khalas? No, you can't do it. Any other question? Yes, this is Shafi'i school. قال المصنف رحمه الله. Said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. والجلوس بين السجدتين, and sitting between the two prostrations. والطمأنينة فيه, and having serenity there in that position. الشرح من أركان الصلاة الجلوس بين السجدتين. The explanation is that among the integrals of the prayer is sitting between the two prostrations. في كل ركعة, in every cycle or every unit of the prayer, every raka'ah. سواء صلى قائما أو قاعدا أو مضطجعا. One has to sit between the two prostrations, even if he prayed, yani whether he prayed standing or sitting or laying down. So you might say, if he's laying down, how would he sit between the two prostrations? So let's say he could. So if he can, then he has to. لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم للمسيء الصلاة, because of what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the man who invalidated his prayer. ثم ارفع حتى تعتدل جالسا, then rise up, from prostration until you are sitting erect. حتى تعتدل جالسا, until you are sitting straight up. وفي رواية, and according to another wording that was reported from the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, حتى تطمئن جالسا, until you are tranquil sitting. ثم افعل ذلك في صلاتك كلها, then do that throughout all of your prayer. رواه الشيخان, the two sheikhs reported that, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. وأقل الجلوس, the minimum sitting, سكون بعد تحرك أعضائه, is stillness after the movement of your organs, meaning for your body to become still. That means to stop moving. Yani, it means to separate your coming up from your going back down. You're talking about sitting between the two prostrations. You have to separate your coming up from sujud from your going back down. That's the minimum of sitting. Yani, that's the minimum duration. But what is the minimum act? The minimum act of sitting is whatever's called sitting. That means that you have to let your buttocks land. So if your buttocks is still in the air, like you're close to sitting, it's almost going to land on the back of your legs, for example, or land on the ground, but it doesn't. And this is not sitting. So then what if you sat with your legs folded in front of you, what some people call Indian style, or even with your legs directly in front of you? All of that is valid because that's called sitting. وَأَكْمَلُهُ الزِّيَادَةُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, and the most excellent sitting is to do more than that, to sit longer than that. بِالدُّعَاءِ الْوَارِدِ فِيهِ, يعني to do more than that by supplicating with whatever was reported from the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam in that position. وَهُوَ, which is Allahumma ighfir li warhamni wahdini wa'afini warzuqni. Allahumma ighfir li وارحمني واهدني وعافني وارزقني اللهم اغفر لي وارحمني واهدني وعافني وارزقني. It means, oh Allah, forgive me and have mercy on me and guide me and protect me and provide for me. وهذا لفظ وهذا اللفظ رواية الحاكم. This wording for this supplication in this position is the rendition of Imam al-Hakim. فلو لم يجلس بين سجدتين, so had a person not sat between the two prostrations, بل صار إلى الجلوس أقرب, rather was merely on the verge of sitting but not sitting yet. لم يصح, that's not valid. And also, I'll remind you to not go off of your qibla in your sitting position, especially if you were preferring to put your buttocks on the floor, not on the back of your legs. Then be mindful that that doesn't let you take your chest off of your qibla. And anything you do in your prayer, don't take your chest off of your qibla. If you needed to reach for something to help you stand up, for example, as long as you keep your chest on your qibla.